Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, the former head of NV Energy, Michael Yackira, for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Nevada Newsmakers tapings in Las Vegas are brought to you by the Las Vegas Metro Chamber of Commerce.
Nearly 200,000 Nevadans work in retail businesses, supporting families and the community. Nevada's retail businesses generated over $2 billion in sales tax revenue in 1 year, including nearly $700 million to help our schools. Shop around and see all that Nevada's retailers offer our state.
We're the Retail Association of Nevada, representing thousands of Nevada businesses.
Businesses that work for Nevada.
Pro Group Management offers workers' comp services to a growing number of industries. As businesses grow and change with the times, the need for a solid workers' comp program must be flexible and up to date. The evolving nature of regulations can make staying ahead of complex tasks challenging. But Pro Group Management simplifies the work so your industry can move forward and succeed. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers, we are delighted to welcome back to the program after an absence, Michael Yackira. He's the former president and CEO of NV Energy. Pleasure to have you back on the program.
It's a delight to be here, Sam. Thank you for asking me.
So I guess the bottom line is, question 3, you won. You were the first person, I believe, that came out publicly in favor of question 3 in an editorial, I believe in the Las Vegas Review-Journal, where you laid out all the reasons why people should reject question 3. What are your thoughts on how this all went? And then I'll get into specifics as we go along.
I think there was an opportunity for NV Energy to put forth the rationale for why question 3 didn't make sense for the consumers and for the state. A couple of years ago, for whatever reason, I've been retired now for 4.5 years, so I'm not sure what the reason was, but NV Energy decided to stand on the sidelines, be neutral to the question, and allow the voters to decide. But the voters didn't have enough information about the pitfalls of the fact that so many states had tried this in the 1990s, and most of them really regretted having done it. So I think it was great that NV Energy decided to get behind an important issue with, obviously, with a lot of money. There's no hiding the fact that they spend a lot of money, and there's never altruism involved in making that kind of decision on money. But maybe I'll rephrase that. The altruistic part of it was the belief that it was wrong for the state and wrong for the customers. It would have been wrong for their bottom line, certainly. But I think in the long run, getting that message out and having all the support that they did, unions, politicians, and others, that just said, wait a second, what's wrong here and why do we want to change it, especially a constitutional change, which, if there had been a mistake, would have required several years to get it changed. So I'm happy that the outcome was what it was. I was surprised that it was so overwhelmingly flipped from where it was 2 years ago, but I think it definitely was the right answer for our state.
If you had been president and CEO at the time, would you have approved a budget of $63 million for the advertising campaign? I mean, for folks that don't know, this is larger than Senate campaigns, gubernatorial campaigns. I mean, that's one of the largest budgets, maybe the largest ever in the state of Nevada.
Well, I think it was. I have to tell you a quick anecdote. Soon after the ballot question came up and the no vote won, somebody texted me and said something similar, and I appreciate your kind words about the op-ed. They said, the tide started turning when you wrote that op-ed. And I said, yes, and $63 million is what got it over the goal line. So I don't think that NV Energy, as an independent, publicly traded company, could have afforded to send $63 million. Maybe the economics would have worked, I don't know. But one of the reasons that I thought it was compelling for NV Energy to sell to a company like Berkshire Hathaway was their commitment to investing and making the right decisions. Take a look at the opportunity that we have in this state for solar power, as an example. NV Energy, while it was a large company, was dwarfed by the balance sheet of Berkshire Hathaway. We could not afford to make the kinds of investments that a Berkshire Hathaway could in solar power. The same is true for something like this. $63 million would have been a big number to our bottom line. I think Berkshire said, we've made the investment. We've made a $5.6 billion investment in this company plus debt. It was over $10 billion when you added the debt back in 2013 when they bought the company, nearly exactly 5 years ago. I think they said $63 million is really a drop in the bucket to protect the customers and to protect the bottom line.
How many years do you think it'll take to amortize that cost for NV Energy?
I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not sure how they accounted for it. I'm not sure whether the money came from Berkshire directly, from the parent company of NV Energy, which is called Berkshire Hathaway Energy, whether NV Energy funded it itself. I'm not aware of how it happened, but it certainly would take a long time if we were to do it to reap the benefits of the bottom line improvement from not having had to face the issues associated with deregulation.
Because, so people can understand, the company is guaranteed a rate of return.
We've talked about that before.
Go ahead.
Companies never guaranteed a rate of return. It has an opportunity to make a certain rate of return, but you still have to run the business.
Okay.
And so, I mean, a lot of people say there's a guarantee. There really is no guarantee for making that return. You have to implement strategies. You have to keep your costs in balance in order to assure that you can make that level of return. So I'm sorry to apologize.
And that's fine. And a good example of that would be the Enron debacle.
Exactly.
Where Sierra Pacific almost went down.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it was a fascinating battle. And the battle continues between large companies like Las Vegas Sands that funded their portion and Switch that funded their portion of supporting Question 3, but only to a third of the... Were you surprised that Las Vegas Sands didn't just kick in the extra money and...
I still don't understand why the proponents were putting money behind this, unless they really believed, and perhaps that's true, they really believed it was a good answer for our state. And I say that because Sands is already leaving. Switch was the first company to leave. The other people who were behind it, even if it wasn't a lot of money behind it, it certainly was touting the benefits of Question 3. MGM and others had already left. So I don't know why they felt that it was a good investment for them, unless they felt that perhaps they could be part of a deregulated business. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, if I was still the CEO of NV Energy and I said to Phil Satry, I've got an idea. NV Energy should be in the gaming business. First thing we would have done was throw me out of the room and gather the board together and say, I think we need to find another CEO. I don't know why, obviously being facetious, I would have never made a recommendation like that, but the flip side of that is, why did Sands and Switch feel compelled to put whatever it was, 10, 12, 15 million dollars, 20, I don't know what the number ultimately was. What was their business motive or opportunity behind making that investment? I can't tell you. I'm not sitting in those boards.
And sort of playing devil's advocate here, I would say that there was a lot of ego involved in the fact that Las Vegas Sands had to pay a huge fee to be able to leave, and therefore this was their response to NV Energy was to say, okay, we paid a big amount, and they certainly have the money to be able to spend if they choose to, and Sheldon Adelson in the political world has had no problems whatsoever in spending $100 million per election cycle on failed people and initiatives over the years. So it's interesting. Let's take a break. So much more to talk about. We'll be right back.
How do you shed some light on a better economy? Start with growth inspired by Valley Electric Association. We're a member-owned power company that puts Nevada first, and we're doing big things, like providing prosperity by securing renewable energy projects. For Nevada, that means more jobs and more opportunities, all for a strong statewide economy. In other words, together, we're doing powerful things. Visit us at vea.coop to learn more.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Michael Yackira. He's the former president and CEO of NV Energy. We've been talking about question 3, stranded assets. So I was talking to somebody with some knowledge who said that if question 3 had been successful, that NV Energy would have sold the stranded assets for cents on the dollar, and but then recouped their costs through whatever would have been negotiated with the legislature and the PUC. Is that true?
Well, again, I have no perspective at this stage on what would be the amount or the designation of what those stranded assets would be. I think if we look back to California, back in the mid to late 1990s, when the legislature required most of the generating assets owned by the California utilities to be sold into the open market, the difference between the amount that was on the books, the book value of those assets, and what they were able to recover by selling those assets, that differential was recovered in California in one fell swoop. I forget how much what it was, but let's, for argument's sake, say Southern California Edison had $1 billion of so-called stranded assets. Stranded assets, again, only defined as the difference between what's on the books and what you can sell it for. That $1 billion was paid to them immediately to do with as they wished. That was unusual. If there was such a mechanism in our state to do that, if question 3 had passed, I don't know whether there would have been an instant payment or a payment over time. But what I cannot answer, is what the value of the NV Energy assets are to a market holder of those assets, a non-utility. And I say that because we invested a lot during the period of time I was there, from 2003 until 2014, in new generating assets, primarily natural gas, some renewables, but billions of dollars in those assets that were new and efficient. And when I say efficient, it's like buying a car that gets better miles to the gallon. Less fuel input in the form of natural gas was necessary to convert to electricity. So they were very modern, very new, very well maintained. And my guess is they could have gotten a reasonable price for those. But as you said, there would have had to be a mechanism in place for whatever shortfall there might have been to be recovered over whatever period of time there was from the customers. That's not unusual. It's been the case in every time there's been a deregulation of the generating market in a state.
NV Energy offered that if question 3 were to fail, that they would invest, I believe, around $4 billion in renewable energy plants. Does that money initially come from NV Energy, or does that money come through with the ratepayers having a cut of that as well?
Well, again, this is stale for me because it's 4.5 years in the past for me. But whenever NV Energy was going to invest in any type of power plant, whether it be a natural gas plant or a renewable energy plant, it would have to go to the Public Utilities Commission through something called an integrated resource plan. It's something that has to be submitted to the PUC every 3 years. And that plan designates what it is that is necessary to meet the demands of growth or customers, or in the case of renewables, with question 6 passing and 50% of the energy having to come from renewables by 2030, I believe it is, there's a need for more renewable energy. So now renewable energy becomes probably the prime mover for new generating capacity. So if the Public Utilities Commission were to pass whatever plan NV Energy has for building renewable energy plants, then the company would build those plants, and assuming they built it on time and on budget as they had proposed to the PUC, then over a period of time they would be able to include those assets in their rates, in so-called rate base. But again, this is something that would happen over a longer period of time. What the recovery mechanism would be, I do not know. But I think it's one of those things, again, that Berkshire Hathaway has the capability of doing. They have the capability of spending that amount of money in renewable energy. Our small-ish company couldn't have managed through that financially. So the benefit of having Berkshire putting money into the company, I think, is great for our state.
But in a way, and I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here, it seems as though what they were offering as a benefit for question 3 failing is actually something that down the road would be potentially a profit center for them,
well, I think
rather than a lost leader.
Sure.
It wasn't a gift.
No, of course not. And utilities never make investments as gifts. I mean, it's just not. I mean, how many people invest in things that they're not expecting to get some return on other than making charitable contributions, which NV Energy, by the way, did very nicely, and I'm sure continues to do very nicely over time. But I think the investments were necessary to meet a certain requirement, whether it be growth in load because we have new customers. NV Energy will always be we to me.
Of course.
It's my baby. Or because there's a mandate, in this case, question 6, and again, that has to go through one more cycle of ballot initiative in order to make that happen. But let's assume it passes. That is a requirement to be fulfilled by NV Energy, either through building or getting contracts from others who have built power plants to sell renewable energy to the company. So either way, the customer is going to be paying for that increase in renewable energy. The good news about renewable energy is the price has been coming down.
Right.
The power plants have been more efficient. They produce more solar, especially solar, produce more solar for less cost, similar to what I said before about miles per gallon. It's the same kind of thing. Less cost, more production. So the cost differential between traditional power plants like natural gas plants and renewable energy plants is shrinking. And I think that's good news for everybody, and it's great for the environment.
There is a biodiesel company, that Fulcrum, that's coming into the Tahoe Industrial Center. NV Energy wanted them to pay a fee because of they wouldn't be part of the rate base prior to them having built anything. From my Jewish background, I believe the word is chutzpah. Did that strike you that way? And feel free not to answer if you don't want to.
I can't answer that as an outsider. I think what they were doing, and again, I don't know, but I think what they were doing was testing the exit strategy that was built into the 2001 legislature that put into place these exit fees. The exit fees are meant to capture the difference between having a customer in the NV Energy system and what benefits for other customers those customers who are leaving had provided. Capture those for everyone else. It's not for NV Energy's benefit as much as it is for other customers' benefits. Let me see if I can explain this quickly. Think of a manufacturing plant. Manufacturing plant can run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It can. If you have one shift, 8 hours a day, but you have fixed costs that need to be recovered over those 8 hours, the cost per unit or cost per hour is much higher than if you're running 3 shifts of 24 hours. Those fixed costs are recovered, but they're recovered over more units, so it's less per unit. It's the same thing when we're talking about renewable energy or those large customers that have been producing or buying power at very high rates relative to their total peak demand. The casinos are more than 90% usage, 90% demand of their total possible demand all the time, because they're always on, it's dark in the casinos, they're always being used. When you lose those customers, you and I have to absorb the costs of that loss. And unless they're paying for an exiting the system, that cost for us would go up much higher. Here's back to your question. I think what NV Energy was doing was saying, well, if we are the monopoly provider, somebody's coming in who has a large load factor, they would be providing a benefit to you and me as residential customers that now will not be provided because they're using somebody else. Let's test to see whether the 2001 legislation was supposed to cover those as well. And it said it did not. I don't know if I would have done that, but I'm looking at it, with I can't even say with 20/20 hindsight. I'm not sure what I would have done in that case.
All right, let's take a break. More with Michael Yackira when we come back.
Nevada Newsmakers tapings in Las Vegas are brought to you by the Las Vegas Metro Chamber of Commerce.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Come visit Design Outdoor's store and backyard to see our wide selection of fire pits, barbecues, and pizza ovens, natural stone water features and fountains, and frost-proof pottery. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us, so she isn't gonna let me see you. I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. And a lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Michael Yackira. He's the former president and CEO of NV Energy. Last quick question. So if question 6 actually passes a second time. And certainly, I don't know about judging history as future, because that would not be the same with question 3. But do you think the costs are going to go up dramatically for the consumer if we have to boost our renewable energy level that far, that quickly?
As I mentioned in the last segment, the cost differential between what I would call traditional generation, natural gas production, and renewable energy is shrinking. And since this will be something that will be over the next 10 years or so, my guess is that the customer probably won't feel much of an increase. And you can't measure what benefit it has for the environment, so I think that is a very good thing overall.
All right, that's where we got to leave it. Thank you so much for doing this.
It's a pleasure.
I really appreciate your input, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
St. Ives Florist, for every holiday and every special occasion, for romance. Custom home design. We have the largest selection of fresh flowers in northern Nevada, and we also offer a large selection of unique gift items. Come see me, Lori Ann, at St. Ives Florist, 700 South Wells Avenue, or call me at 333-9190.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
As always, you can watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at nevadanewsmakers.com. You can also download podcasts of the show free of charge or watch us on YouTube. We'll see you on the next broadcast.